The private dining room of the Sterling Hotel faced a slate-colored Lake Michigan, the kind of winter lake that looked carved rather than fluid. The room was all chandeliers, mahogany, and quiet wealth, a place where even the air felt curated. Through the frosted doors, my family gathered for the annual Strategic Investment Review, a ritual that had always seemed distant and ceremonial to me. Like a high holiday, I was permitted to observe only from the foyer. 3 weeks earlier, an email invitation had arrived. No explanation, no warm greeting, just the date, the time, and the subject line. Annual portfolio session attendance requested. For reasons I couldn't name then but fully understood, now I decided to attend. I drove the 3 hours from Indianapolis in my aging Subaru, the one everyone in my family pretended not to notice. My father met me at the threshold, palm raised, not in welcome but in a gesture I recognized from years of childhood correction. "Mara," he said, his voice meant to be quiet but carrying all the same. "You don't understand this meeting." "The family portfolio meeting," I said, aware of the people arranging materials behind him. "I'm family." He sighed with a kind of practiced patience. "For relatives with positions, you have none." Behind him, my brother Evan tested a presentation clicker with the sort of smooth confidence he'd worn since prep school. My sister Leia angled a tablet toward our mother, who nodded with the regal precision she reserved for matters involving large sums or public appearances. "I have investments," I said. Mom's diamond bracelet caught the light. "We know about your little consulting shop, sweetheart. Industrious, really. But this meeting is for substantial holdings, devices, pharma, biotech, not process audits for old factories. I'm not here to discuss my firm." "Then what would you contribute?" Dad asked. "You rent, you drive an old Subaru, you tune factories. This," he gestured to the room, "is a different scale." Evan drifted over, smelling faintly of expensive cologne and certainty. "It's dry stuff. FDA timelines, clinical trials, venture rounds, not your lane." "I understand those," I said. "Understanding and doing," he said lightly, "are different." "The invitation was to the whole family." Dad's mouth went thin. "To those with meaningful success?" "You're 34 with no major assets," Mom said, as though she were reciting my medical history. "You live simply because you choose to." I felt the smallest heat rise in my chest. "I live simply because I prefer to," Dad's voice cut in. "You live simply because you must. Now join us for lunch afterward. The discussion isn't appropriate at your level." My phone buzzed in my pocket once, twice, then insistently a third time. I ignored it. "Dad," I said, "I want to attend." "You're embarrassing yourself," Mom said, touching my elbow. "Please leave gracefully." I turned away from the glass, from their certainty about who I was and who I would always be. In the silent hallway, I finally checked my screen. 7 missed calls from James, my attorney. 3 from Diana, my investment manager. 2 from Margaret, my CFO. All urgent. A different kind of cold swept into me, sharp and clarifying. I stepped farther from the door and called James first. He answered on the first ring. "Mara, we have a situation," he began without greeting. "Richard, your father, is pitching a debt-fueled expansion for Hale Medical. $180 million in senior notes stacked on top of existing obligations." I pressed a hand against the wall. "How bad?" "Keystone Bridge Capital holds their paper," he said. $220 million. New senior debt without our consent triggers immediate default. Diana's name flashed in. I merged her. "Mara," she said, breathless. "Evan cued a merger press release. He's planning to cash out preferred shareholders to help fund the expansion. Keystone owns 70% of those preferreds. He can't liquidate without us." A third tone, Margaret. "And Leia's about to ask the family for $50 million for that gene therapy trial," she said. "She's labeling it low risk. Industry odds are 12%. If we fail to disclose competing positions, we're looking at regulatory trouble." Not fear, but something colder. A precise mental click settled over me. I'd lived long enough in enough boardrooms to know the feeling, the moment when the math lined up and the outcome became obvious. "Options?" I asked. "Send a formal disclosure to the room," James said. "Legal but slow." "Temporary injunction," Diana suggested, "but the leak will hit before lunch." "Or," Margaret said, "you walk in. Own it now." Through the doors, polite laughter rose. Evan must have wrapped his portion. "How long?" I asked. 15 minutes until your father's debt pitch," James said. 30 to Evan's press briefing, 45 to Laya. "We're out of time," I said. I hung up, breathed once deep enough to feel the cold clarity lock into place, and pushed open the frosted doors. Conversation stilled. My father straightened, flushed with irritation. My mother turned, immaculate as ever. My siblings paused over their screens. At the head of the table sat Uncle Theo, chair of this familial parliament with Aunt Helena beside him. "Mara," Dad said tightly, "we were clear." "I need to speak before your restructuring proposal," I said, stepping forward. "As a major investor, I have standing." The room rippled with soft confusion, fabric shifting, ice settling in glasses. "A what?" Evan asked. "Keystone Bridge Capital," I said. "I own it." Phones buzzed immediately. 100 small wasps of information. Eyes dropped, fingers tapped. The room really learned my name for the first time in years. Theo was the first to look up. "Verification?" I set my phone on speaker and called James back. He introduced himself formally. Diana followed. Margaret next. Links chimed into inboxes. Heads bent lower. Numbers didn't lie. They didn't care about childhood hierarchies. Dad's color slipped away as he read aloud. $220 million in our notes. Covenants barring senior debt without consent. "Yes," I said calmly. "And I'm willing to approve the expansion, but not at those terms. Do a sale-leaseback on the non-core plant, add vendor credit, and stage the new money against cash flow performance." Evan swallowed. "And the merger?" "You can't liquidate preferreds without majority approval," Diana said through the speaker. "Use contingent value rights. Retain the science team. We'll support that." Leia's voice wavered. "And my trial?" 12% odds isn't failure," Margaret said. "It's high risk. Present it accurately with outside lead investors and full disclosures." Silence settled, not hostile, just stunned. Theo finally nodded. "I recognize Keystone's standing. Mara has the floor." What followed wasn't vengeance, though no one in that room would ever mistake me again for someone playing at business. It was the work I did every day, only now applied to the family that had dismissed me so confidently. I mapped exposures, pulled up conflict charts, restructured Dad's debt into cheaper blended capital. I pushed Evan's timeline to something defensible, reframed Laya's raise with proper risk weightings. We called PR to pull the premature merger release. We drafted an addendum for the lenders. People who had not looked at me all morning now scribbled notes as though I'd been chairing these meetings for a decade. By the time we adjourned, the room felt different, lighter, in the way a storm sometimes leaves the sky washed clean. Mom approached first, mascara slightly smudged. "We were cruel," she said softly. "You were certain," I answered. "Certainty is cruelty's quiet twin." Dad hovered behind her. His voice rasped. "You protected us." "I protected my stakes," I said. Then, unable to help myself, added more gently, "and us." Evan lingered. "Is it too late to ask for your help before I announce things?" "It's exactly the right time," I said. Leia squeezed my hand. "Coffee later? Real coffee, not inside baseball coffee?" "Coffee sounds good," I said, "with risk tables." Outside, the lake hammered white light against the windows. I texted James. "Confirm filings, ... then another message. Dad's Sunday dinner still works." He replied a minute later, "Bring the Subaru, we'll ride together. Practical as a covenant, almost as tender.